the panel. I am thrilled to invite somebody who I consider a role model and a great friend. Allow me to read the profile of the moderator. Remember, immediately after this panel discussion, we shall proceed to dinner. The moderator of the panel is an illustrious lady called Angela Rariere. She's a customer experience specialist with a track record of successful business process reengineering to facilitate organizational change. Previously, she worked as head of customer experience both at SBG Securities, formerly CFC Stanbic Financial Services, and Safaricom Limited, among other prodigious corporate organizations. Angela holds a Master's of Business Administration Marketing from Charles Sturt University. You're making some of us KU people feel like kwani tulienda shule. But anyway, this is her profile. A postgraduate diploma from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK, and an award for customer service managers in UK, and an honors degree in education from Kenyatta University. Finally, somewhere I can identify. She's an accredited executive coach with the Academy of Executive Coaching. She has served as the director of the Institute of Customer Experience and is a distinguished Toastmaster with Toastmasters International, the leading movement devoted to making effective communicators and transformative leaders worldwide. Angela is the managing partner of Upskill Africa Limited, a best-in-class training solutions provider specializing in providing best practice integrated soft skill solution tailored for bridging the soft skills gap in individuals and organizations for personal and professional success. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, she's human. Ladies and gentlemen, please, with a thundering applause, help me welcome the panel moderator this evening just before dinner, Angela Rariere. Welcome, Angie.
So as we prepare to dig into this session, I really want to acknowledge everybody in this room and even organizations that are not here, because in the last 10 years, and some of you have walked with us in the journey as ICX, for the last 10 years, I have not seen fireworks during CS week like I saw this year. And to think that we are working with hybrid working solutions, some are fully at home. So let's just give ourselves one big round of applause. It is no secret that the happiest departments in any organization are the CX departments. We know how to do our thing. I don't know the level of persuasion that you have, but this year I saw things I have not seen, and we've been following CX Week for 8 years, solidly 8 years. And so we want to have a session to share. And it's not just an ordinary session. It's a session where we will be looking at some very pertinent, Eric, I hope you're noting those big words. Yes, I will not let you down. So very pertinent questions around, beyond the CS week, the CX agenda. If you can get your group CEO to wear a pair of school shorts, you are going places. If you can get your organizations to approve budget for CX week spend, you are amazing people. And so I will call the team of panelists to lead our discussion this evening. Allow me to begin by introducing the Director Customer Obsession, Lucille Aveva from Safaricom. 23 years of executive management positions at Stanchart, at Barclays, at Celtel, at Airtel, at Regas, and now at Safaricom. Sheraton, Tanzania. Sarova Hotels. So when Lucille talks, she means business. She knows what she's talking about. Currently at Safaricom, she's responsible for using various touchpoints and platforms to collect feedback and prioritize customer needs in every business goal. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for Lucille Aveva as she comes to join me on the stage. Next is a lady I have known for many years, way before ICX. She has also walked the journey with ICX for years. Passionate about people, passionate about standards, passionate about strategy. But here's the thing you might not know about Lorna. She loves to cook, she loves to sing, and today we want to see that singing in action, Lorna. She is really, really very consumed with uplifting the downtrodden and generally forwarding the cause for the girl child. Lorna works at KCB Bank as the Service Experience and Compliance Manager. A big round of applause as Lorna joins me on the stage. Our third panelist is another friend who has worked with ICX for many years. She's a customer experience evangelist, and I think has been very instrumental in the conversation changing from us being referred to as taxpayers to customers of the Kenya Revenue Authority. Sheila has worked for local banks for over 13 years, starting and running customer experience functions. At KRA, in the last 5 years, she has dedicated herself to driving service strategy, implementing KRA's service design framework, people management, and customer intelligence administration. Currently, she's the Chief Manager, Public Relations and Communication at the authority. Another sign that when you can rock the world experience, you can rock the world in any function successfully in the organization. Sheila Mugusia, please join me on the stage. A warm round of applause. Last but certainly not least is a jovial gentleman that is at Safaricom. He represents the boy-child third gender rule. Our politicians can learn a thing or two from us. Joseph, he's a transformative and disruptive B2B e-commerce leader in food distribution. He has nurtured many, many individuals and is very proud to have unleashed onto this universe, and in Africa in particular, protégés who are customer experience obsessed. He has worked for Safaricom, Equity Bank, MultiChoice, and currently is the customer experience manager at Twiga Foods. He even brought this organization on board as a member of ICX very recently. For those of you who'd like a banana or two, if you are new members to the ICX, to the CX fraternity, you will see Joseph outside the hall after the discussion. A very warm round of applause for Joseph Orlando as he joins me on the stage. On the issue of advocacy, and this is really just about how have you been able over the years to lead that cause within your organizations for Customer Service Week in particular? Allow me to throw this question to you, Joe, to kick off the discussion, because you have joined Twiga, and it's less than a year. The organization has never participated in Customer Service Week, and we saw you creating magic this year. Not only that, you then managed to get the organization to join ICX. So we will not let you off this stage until you tell us what magic is this that you did at Twiga.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Angie. That's a very interesting question, but I'll start it from the top. that for every organization, what matters is the top line and eventually the bottom line. So what has worked for me over the years, even at Twiga, is the ability to relate and link back customer experience to the revenue and to the profitability story. Those who have worked with me, and some of them are in this auditorium, knows that it's usually very difficult to know whether I'm in sales, whether I'm in marketing, or whether I'm in customer experience. I know one point a boss asked me, do you want to work in sales? And the reason is, once you realize the heartbeat of the organization and the heartbeat of the leadership, then your agenda can flow. And the first place to start is, how are you contributing directly or indirectly to the big conversation about revenue and profit? And that's what I always do in terms of either practically or even demonstrating it. And so when I stepped into Twiga, the first thing was to see, where does customer experience sit when it comes to the big agenda of revenue? And where does customer experience sit when it comes to profitability? And how can I demonstrate that to my executives to a point that it is clearly understood? I might also say that what also worked for me in Twiga, and it's good to blow my trumpet, is when I joined Twiga, the first deliverable I was given was to deliver an NPS, the baseline NPS survey. Of course, you do the whole process and RFPs and all that, and we did a baseline survey to just know where we are. We had a target, but we needed to know where we are in March. And we got a very healthy NPS survey of positive 44% from our customers. But that was not the issue. The issue was, beyond the outcome, then how do you interpret that into actions that bring together the organization? And so we came up with strategies and action points for the whole organization and brought a cross-functional team together. And the issue was, we must improve. It's a lot of delight to say that we did a follow-up NPS survey in the month of August, September, and we had moved the dial to the excellent quadrant of positive 70% NPS. Yeah, you can clap for that. And so when you have such visible outcomes that relate to the business, then the conversation about support becomes very easy. Let me leave it there for now, and we can come back to it later. But just understand the top line, and I always say, every person in the organization must be a salesperson. And when a CEO hears that, you got your budget.
Thank you very much, Joe. First, congratulations for that phenomenal rise in your NPS score. Also, you have reiterated what Dr. Julius Kipngetich said at a breakfast a couple of months ago. Numbers make sense for business. If we can quantify value in terms of revenue, then we get heard, then we are allowed our spaces. Sheila, if you could take the conversation from there, that you have been at KRA, so you represent the public sector, and your organization is huge, right? Your organization is huge. I'm really very curious to know how you got over the years, and we've seen KRA participating in really big ways, just how you got that advocacy got heard where you needed to get heard.
Okay, thank you very much, Angela. And Joe, thanks for setting the stage for us. I'll take a few steps back and go back to the history of KRA. So KRA is 26 years old this year. And for the last 17 years, Kenya Revenue Authority has always dedicated section of the year to customers. And that's the month of October. So that started 17 years ago. I think for me, when I walked in, the canvas was in place. And the question was, how will I paint my canvas? How will I drive the service agenda over CX Week to ensure that the organization then begins to appreciate its customers differently or in an exciting manner? So over the last 17 years, we started off as having a day. First it was a day, then it became a week, then suddenly it became a month. I remember coming from the banking space, budgets were a little leaner. So the money I saw in KRA was a lot of money. Well, at least what I thought was a lot of money. But what that also did challenge us was how can you innovatively use the shilling that you have to demonstrate value to the organization and begin to shift the conversation into a softer one. Because in KRA we speak compliance, we refer to, I think Angela alluded to this, you're a taxpayer. But looking back, why we call you taxpayers is because of the very setup, our DNA. We're entrenched in the law, so you're something we look at. Yeah? So beginning to change that narrative and introducing softer activities for the organization to shift its view of the taxpayer into a customer. So one of the fun activities we did, and then this was just an idea that a group, a small team that was a part of the smaller committee, because we do have committees that run the activities of the month. So this committee, we decided that we wanted to demonstrate care to the public. And with the budget we had, we actually asked that we could buy a little breakfast for Kenyans, as in the public, and go out in the streets and begin to just tell people that this is the softer side of KRA, we care, but also know that you have obligations and you have rights as well. So we were selling the organization in a different light. And I remember my boss telling me, Sheila, we've given you all that money to spend and then people don't drink the tea you buy. They'll think we've poisoned them. So I said, goodness. I told her, no, they'll like it because it's different. It's not your ordinary compliance officer coming to demand. It's a soft conversation telling you that you really actually do need to comply because the law says so. So out of that, actually management saw that there was value and the conversation was beginning to shift. And slowly we began to creep into people's presentations, and you see people intermittently use taxpayer and customer. And before long, we've actually now grown within that space out of a small activity that was mooted out of a week. So I think it's passion, creativity, but also being very clear. And I like what Joe said, linking it to the bigger picture. We only understand numbers. So I think later as the evening goes on, I'll be able to demonstrate how we have done that to, widen the conversation beyond looking colorful and happy in the organization.
Amazing. Thank you very much for those insights, Sheila. How many people tasted that tea? Just out of curiosity. Of course, you couldn't have tasted the tea because you were busy giving tea and dancing and, showing your customers love, yes? But this is amazing that KRA has been dedicating for the last, 17 years, time to their customers. Purity. So, maybe at ICX we are not so clever as we thought. Well done. Really, Sheila, very well done. Lorna, over to you. KCB, another huge organization. Buy-in. So you're one of the few organizations in the country that actually have a director of customer experience, Job Njiru. So maybe that has, softened ears somewhat. But I know you've done a lot of heavy lifting. How has that journey of advocacy been for you in KCB?
All right. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Joe. For us, really, it has been about driving the voice of the customer. In KCB, for many years, we didn't even have a customer experience division or department. It started off as a contact center. Actually, people thought it's just a call center. So our journey started by first demystifying, what is this call center? What is this contact center? What do these people do other than just picking calls? So we needed to do a lot of roadshows, just to tell people this is what customer experience is all about. And telling people that customer experience is not just customer care, it is not customer service, but now we are even moving to customer obsession, where I believe Lucille will take us to. So it was just about engaging more of our staff, having roadshows, meeting our people, demystifying what is this agenda, and driving a lot of buy-in. And the advocacy comes in that customer experience doesn't end up being just a customer experience division alone driving this agenda. And advocacy has worked for us in that now we have customer experience champions within our head office units, within our branches, and this has helped us demystify what customer experience really is. And at the same time, as we were driving the power of service this year, it's just giving our customers the magic of service, showing them that we love them. And we've done this over and over just by showing our staff that we are together in this journey. We do not leave our branches alone. Even as we speak today here, the representation that we have here is not just from customer experience. We have some branch members here, branch people who drive numbers, who understand these numbers, of course, can also be influenced by our NPS, our customer effort scores, and just bridging into this conversation. So for us, it's been a lot of buy-in, voice of the customer, what is the customer telling us, and then going back to our stakeholders and telling them, how can we make it better? Like last year when we had when the COVID pandemic came in, we listened into a lot of our calls that came in through our centers where people were asking for, could you just even give us a hint of this, the interest rates that are coming through? How do we partner in this? And of course, we got into giving them products. I think we restructured about 140 billion loans for our customers, which was something phenomenal because the customers then got to see that we hear them. The branches with us on the other side are like, oh yes, this is how we are partnering together. And this is all driven by the voice of the customer. So for us, it's really voice of the customer, looking at our top issues, and how can we capture these top issues and then drive them through the voice of the customer.
Thank you, Lorna. That, the rebates, the loans, is that still ongoing? I'm just sitting here and thinking, my bank, maybe it's time to move with my feet. Or was that just for last year? I'm asking for a friend. I'm just asking for a friend.
That was last year's.
Fantastic, fantastic. So again, what are we hearing here? Voice of the customer. To get in, to get heard, we need to go and present business with the hard facts. This is what our customers are saying. Not what we wish they would say, but first, this is what our customers are saying. But what I'm also hearing here is a golden opportunity for us to begin the education inside the organization. When we can win inside, the outside victory is almost guaranteed. Now, Lucille, finally to you. Director Customer Obsession, Safaricom, the biggest taxpayer in the Republic, the most profitable organization in the region, an organization that has been running ahead, really even in terms of the customer experience agenda, for the years. And so it's easy for us to sit here and think, well, you have it all. Yet the sheer size of the organization, the complexity of it, and the products that keep Safaricom going, how do you get heard so that people are not thinking, what's customer service week? We're running ahead of the curve. How do you get heard in a situation like that?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think first is to probably unpack what customer obsession is. And it is not a department. It is the orchestration of the entire organization, from technical to commercial to enterprise, the entire organization in being hyper-focused. So now I'll use the textbook definition of customer obsession. It's where you're hyper-focused on the customer needs and deliver experience. And it cuts across internal customers, external customers, stakeholders. And I'm sitting on this platform with my stakeholders. KRA depends on the stability of my network for their customers to use iTax. KCB is integrated, and when you have those problems with M-Pesa and all those other things, if we are not collaborating, there's a problem. We do know Twiga is fully digital, and therefore we are an enabler of their business. So why customer obsession, and why has Safaricom gone that route? And it's the main effort, what we're calling the main effort. So our mission, as you said, we've done all that. Our mission now is to be a customer-obsessed organization that is digital first and delivering double-digit growth. So continuing to grow by becoming an accelerator and an enabler of the country, of the region, or wherever we may play, and to become a technology company by 2025. So we are evolving from a telco to a techco. And we know what has changed the last 2 years. I think people appreciate technology a lot more, right? We've had to go and work from home. You've talked about contact centers. You've worked in Safaricom. Imagine the contact center staff are working from home individually. Yet we know the contact center as it operates needs a room as big as this, with teams sitting in rows with their supervisors. But how do we get heard? So first, it's the main effort. It's very clear. It is our mission. And it is therefore incorporated in 3 levels of the organization. Sits with the CEO office, and therefore cross-functional. And we are evolving the organization to be an agile organization, which means we are moving away from a waterfall, a typical waterfall organization. That's network, that's, the structures, into cross-functional setups that is typical of technology companies, so that we are more responsive. We are delivering solutions and services and products in 2-week sprints. So first, it's ingrained in the way now we are set up. The second thing is we have created what's called a mission that works to ensure that this tribe, so those who are familiar with agile organizations, or you may look up what agile organizations operate like, we have very clear ways of doing it. But why customer obsession? I'll use it in the words of Jeff Bezos. We're familiar with Amazon, right? So Jeff says, customer obsession is the only strategy that will get you to your mission in a healthier manner. Because typically, we have people who are either product obsessed, right? They're always rolling out products for the accolades, for rewards and awards, for being innovative. So the organization is permanently in a mode of what's the most innovative product. Then you have organizations, and none of this is bad, by the way, as long as it works for you. We have organizations that are profit obsessed. We did this last year, we must do this year, we must grow, and under all circumstances, bottom line must be met. And we all have targets, eh? Has anybody's targets moved downwards from previous years? I couldn't come here, right? So there's more for less, more with less. So it can be profit obsessed, but we also know it cannot be sustainable in terms of who is driving the profitability. Then we have another area that is competitor obsessed. You have a strategy, you go for away day, this is what we're going to do, but you spend the entire year responding to how competition is operating. So Jeff Bezos applies the customer obsession strategy, and this is what actually has brought the evolution of Amazon, and it's a technology company, and that's where we position ourselves. And it's entrenched in customer experience, and it's delivering the basics across every touch point and across the customer journey. And this is how they were able to grow, and I'll bring that back to Safaricom. They were able to evolve from a bookseller, but if you take customer experience, because we are all customer experience champions here, the one thing they perfected was always on time. The orders were delivered, right? You never knew where their customer service offices were, but you were also able to read reviews. You know, they educated the world on leaving a review. And therefore, they pushed sales through review. And in our world, we call it word of mouth, right? Yeah. From there, they listened to the customer that said, so I'm unpacking customer obsession. They listened to the customer and said, who asked, I would love to get a lot more from you. And they evolved to become an aggregator. So they moved from a bookseller to an aggregator, and with that, they've carried very many people with them. Their channel partners, their delivery partners, the people who sell, and they are now just an accelerator. But they further listened. If you've purchased things from Amazon, you know, you'll buy from the different people who are maybe selling from different parts of the world, and there was always a promise. This will come in 3 to 5 days. And if they say 3 to 5 days, the chances are it will come by the third day, so exceeding expectation. But there's one problem. Your cart has different sellers, and you'll get parcels on different days. And what did Amazon do? They did the Amazon Prime, right? Where now they'll consolidate in the back end and share to you. So in a nutshell, that's what customer obsession is. And in Safaricom, the way it has manifested is we're looking at the areas that are really key to the customers. So one is mobile data. We know the world has completely changed going forward, dependent on data. The second one is M-Pesa, entrenched. So we want to ensure that we're delivering a safe, reliable, intuitive M-Pesa that's fraud-free, that works when you need it to work. The third one is fixed data. With working from home, people will need to use Wi-Fi because there are many people in the household sharing data, right? The fourth is then our network and our IT systems, always on, ensuring not only there's no congestion, but there's also smart planning. We are where the customers need us to be, but you're also not able to distinguish if you move from 2G to 4G on your device. And then system stability. Underpinning that, we're looking at our omni-channels. So the world is evolving. The customer has power in their devices. So we must have a strategy around digital care, self-service, our different customer touch points. And finally, without the sixth part, this is our customer obsession program, is the culture. Unless we have the customer obsession culture anchored and alive in the organization, forget it, right? And the culture is not only our frontline staff, but it's also the support teams. It's also our channel partners, our suppliers, our M-Pesa agents, those ones of Hakuna Fraud. When they realize that they are delivering a service, we will get there. So that's really what the customer obsession is, and it does help that it's our main mission, and it cuts across the entire organization from a strategic perspective.
Thank you very much, Lucille, for debunking and sort of demystifying what customer obsession is all about. Allow me to move very quickly into the issue of budgets. How many of you had to crawl, beg, bring mandazi to your boss, do extra work to get approval for budget for CS Week? Raise your hand, shame the devil, and, let's just appreciate you. How many people had, so all of you are sitting here very pretty, just went and said, I need 1.2 million for CS Week this year. And the director or your MD said, okay, approved. Is that what you're saying? Speak the truth and shame the devil. So we know that this has been an ongoing struggle for especially CX professionals, all of us in this room, getting budget approval even for things as critical as a CRM platform. So what I'd like to know from, and Lucille, I will not ask you because you are coming from a cash-rich organization, so your budget is, out of the sky. I am going to ask Joe, especially that you went in 9-10 months new in this organization that really was not in any way celebrating CS Week. How did you get your budgets approved? And also the other thing I'd like you to talk to is CX Week about big budgets and a lot of expenditure.
Wow, okay, thank you. Thank you for showing us we can take our time. and when someone talks about Safaricom, I feel like adding where the story began, and I can see Paul Kamau in the audience when we were talking about passion for the world, passion for results, passion for customers, and passion for the community with Michael Joseph. That's where it began. Let me go down a bit and say, I want to give an example of MultiChoice. How we started the journey. Because again, MultiChoice joined ICX when I was in MultiChoice. We started customer experience from our personal budgets, myself and my HOD, Rosario Jacqueline, and started introducing, especially from the aspect of the internal customer, our employees, and appreciating our employees through, we started something called CX Awards, just to appreciate the frontline people that work to serve our customers. We literally started from very little or no money, actually our budgets. I remember myself and Jackie sitting and printing certificates from the office printer, just to appreciate the staff. Then we moved into collaborations, and I want to say there are people in the organization with budgets that could be relevant to you, but if you don't collaborate, you don't know. There are people with budgets for branding and merchandise and such like items that you can use in your customer experience endeavors. It calls for you to go out, to collaborate, and get in-kind support. The next big event that we did, we actually got partial sponsorship from the GoTV team, the GM then, to sponsor our CX agenda because he had a budget and he was a good man. Throughout my life, one of the people that I've always made sure I'm in good books with are the people in branding and people in marketing. I can tell you, Paul is here. Most of you didn't know. Paul, I don't know if I asked you if you know where the warehouses for Safaricom merchandisers have been since we began. I knew Beijing Road before we moved to JCC because Gerald Rasugu used to give me merchandise for my team. That was many years ago. So just identifying who has what you need and how do you bring the whole organization to support your agenda by demonstrating value. But then I must also underscore, Angela, that when I moved into Twiga, just like in MultiChoice where I had a good boss, I found a boss that is very, very customer obsessed as well. And that makes it very easy if you have a boss that understands where you're going. And so we sat down and we planned ahead of time that we have to do our first ever customer experience week. And we did the budget. I assure you it was slashed because I came with the mentality of some money. And I was willing to work with what is available. So we slashed it. And then you just have to work with what you have, but make the best out of it. For the first time, the people in commercial were actually saying, it's the first time we are giving customers something. Because I looked at our budget and said, the little it is, I want to share with customers. So I went to commercial and they were shocked. I wanted to give me customers that we can appreciate with value in their e-wallet to buy goods from us. And of course, when you look for that approval and you say, we are going to put this money in their e-wallet and they're going to buy from us, the story is already selling itself. And then we became creative and said, we're not going to give a dummy check. The initial idea was, let's print a dummy check. I said, I'm not a bank. I've worked in bank, but I'm not a bank. I work with the app. So we did a dummy app. So if you saw our photos in the market, we were giving the customer awards with a dummy app, a dummy phone. That is very relevant to them because we are in an agenda to drive digital migration for our customers. So when you link up what you're doing even pictorially and show the value and you have the support of your manager, then it flies. We don't need big budgets. If you're in KRA, you're blessed. But we all know where the money comes from, so it's okay, right? Not all of us collect ushuru. So we work with the customer money. And so the budget that we have, you just need to look at what is really, really going to be relevant. And this has been my policy, and that's why I say I'm very proud of the people I've worked with. Always start from inside. Always start with your people first. And make sure they are obsessed, they are customer obsessed, and they are happy. And also the organization. Show value and bring them on board. Have conversations. How do I help you? Today in Twiga, there's a big love-hate relationship in all organizations between sales and customer experience. All organizations. But we have a love-love relationship because we show them value of how we support them to meet their numbers. And therefore you get that support. So no big budget required. Just be creative. Do the thing that you can do. We hosted customers for customer inclusion in the contact center, but on a very small budget. But they left the place feeling very, very appreciated. So if you get a big money, it's okay. But the little you have, just be creative and ask, what will make sense to my internal customers and to my external customers? Thank you, Angela.
Thank you very much, Joe. So the word is out here. Work with what you've got. Be super creative and look for how you can create maximum impact with the budget that you've been given. Above all, what Joe has told us, to be an effective customer experience strategist, you must first be a salesperson. If you can be the foremost salesperson in your organization, you will be able to stitch together the bits and pieces of how CX is directly impacting and contributing not only to sales, it's to PR and to everything else in the organization. Now, the aroma of food is really, really torturing me up here, and so I know it is torturing you as well. So we're going to go into a final question, and this will be answered by Sheila and Lorna. Sustainability. We know that we all went out on a limb. There are amazing things being done all of last week. We had the naysayers saying, oh, there we go again. Yeah, those customer service people. Yeah? Oh, here they are out again. As soon as customer service week is gone, we'll be forgotten. How have you leveraged on your successes with the customer service week to forward your agenda, the bigger CX agenda in the organization, so that beyond the first full week of October, people in the organization are still hot and motivated about your customer experience agenda? Maybe I'll start with you, Lorna.
Right. So for us this year, we really went back to basics. And even just to say a little about the budget, as CX, as the Customer Experience Division, we didn't have a budget. We actually operating from a zero budget. And so it made us get very creative of the activities that we did. But remember at the beginning I said we had a lot of buy-in from our different businesses, the other directors, other head office units. And people at that level put aside their own budgets to run the activities. And so for us, most of what we were doing is more of engaging stakeholder management, reviewing of meaningful customer experiences and processes. I probably have friction points with a certain division where we go and see how can we get it better. So in a form of sustainability, we have started making this as weekly engagements where we come and start reviewing. You remember the voice of the customer. We start reviewing how can we reduce these friction points as KCB, as a team, not as customer experience, but as head office at KCB, branches, and the different businesses across the region, because again, this was also running across all our businesses in Rwanda, Sudan, and all of you. So our sustainability now is for every division or every staff member to pick one activity out of what we were doing, either these stakeholder engagements, and let us see, are we able to review to get better processes, better products, better systems that will delight our customers. So we have challenged our people, and we have done that also in the past. Just pick one activity that is quite meaningful for our customers. And a lot of times we also have this embedded in our team's scorecards, where even at the end of the year we are able to see then what did you bring on board and what has been the impact. Again, because we are also a revenue business, we have to bring it back to the return on investment. So it's really pick one item out of Customer Service Week. We continue having weekly engagements, monthly, quarterly, until it becomes a behavior, it becomes a pattern, and it's part of us.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Lorna. And Sheila, to wrap up this discussion, sustainability. Beyond the razzmatazz of the Customer Service Week, then what?
Okay, first, let's start with Joe. The monies, they're never enough. But I feel like the spoiled child here because, yes, we do have a budget dedicated to the entire month. And I talked about the month starting off with Customer Service Week, which usually has its own budget. And then we have various other activities that happen in the course of the month that also are allocated budgets. And just to demonstrate the seriousness of this, the seriousness the authority is taking with this is that the committees that are running the programs that run through the month are actually headed by commissioners, ensure that all the activities within the month happen. But back to the question, how do we sustain? Customer Service Week has usually had a high. There's some euphoria during that week. And you take advantage of that high and say all the things that you wish you would have in an organization to drive your service agenda. And I think that's what we used to do, and we continue to do. But again, focus is on innovation and creativity, regardless of the amount of money you have. And this creativity, what we've done, we've extended it across the country to allow our regional teams, because we also divided into regions, to allow our regional teams to also chip in terms of what creative ideas do you have to execute or would you like to execute in the course of the month, and then how do you push them over so they sort of spill over into the next month. And I'll pick something very simple. I know for those of us in private sector, when we talk about visiting a customer, you know, a KRA visit is very different from a visit from Safaricom. So we actually started doing customer visits and now have been entrenched, and the team actually does follow through them every year. We have incorporated the executive into these programs. Why? Get to know the customer beyond did payee come in, was VAT paid, because those are our ordinary conversations. Then what this does is that it begins to speak into a challenge within the organization. So we now become alive to what are our real challenges. We do not engage as much. We do not embrace public participation as much. And that then forms the structure or the pillars of structural support to drive the service agenda within the organization. So by that I mean, if you sort out the structural issues around engagement of stakeholders, you have a stakeholder engagement framework where you sit and talk to people. So those conversations then continue beyond the hype of a week, for instance. Involving staff. We'll then use, and now we're slowly beginning to move into corporate social sustainability initiatives. You begin to have your staff involved, and they feel like they own a part of turning around the organization. So you're driving ownership across board because, look, the authority is made up of not the happy faces in the marketing department alone, but it's made up of those tight-suited technocrats in business who are looking to go through your audited accounts and find revenue. So how do you change that mindset? How do you begin to have conversations with this person and shift their thinking? So it's through involving them in some of those activities that happen across the month. So I think thereafter, looking at involvement of senior management, then feedback begins to flow upwards. You start becoming an agenda in meetings. You start starting conversations in different forums. And what I like about the authority is that it is not us in marketing who do that. It is, or customer experience for that matter. It is actually the other business teams that begin to talk about, in fact, that experience was not great, or that customer had issues. And they become conscious about looking at opportunities to turn around. So what has this yielded? So great stuff has happened. I think over the years, it's now become, with an organization that's the size of the organization I work in, you have to structure it and fit it in some form or within the structure to drive service. So it's now measured through performance. It's entrenched within the performance scorecards. So even that person who's looking for revenue knows they're looking for something called satisfaction, and they have to make sure it's at a certain level. Additionally, I think the push for service has made especially high levels of government begin to think about turning around KRA's name. But there's some, I think, some spiritual issues around naming things. When you're named an authority, like I said, you're dealing with an object, this object called the taxpayer. So there's actually conversations around changing our name from Kenya Revenue Authority to Kenya Revenue Service. But now what has happened that is firmly entrenched in the strategic plan, and there are things we then must do to change. So what happens is you're going to have, we've now started influencing policy, legal tools have to exchange hands for names to change. Processes have to change. We're moving to obsession, Lucille. But for us, it's going to be a journey that's taking about 3 years, but it has its place within the corporate plan. So I think that is what the buzz of a week has grown, and I believe we will sustain this beyond the generations that are currently within the authority.
Thank you very much, Sheila. So, ladies and gentlemen, every inch of effort, every sweat that you broke in preparing for CS Week this year was worth it. You are planting the seeds. And what we've heard now is you need to milk that cow on that first week of October. Milk that cow. Use that as a platform to squeeze everything that you need out of your organization in terms of pushing the CX agenda forward. We've also heard here repeatedly collaboration between stakeholders in the organizations, and when you begin to aim for obsession, it's literally stakeholder management, so both within and outside the organization. We've heard you must be the foremost salesperson. That's how you win. And we must demonstrate a return on investment. If business is going to spend this much, what is business getting back? So I'll open the floor now. Our experts are here. They will be with us over dinner, so you'll also have an opportunity to ask them, speak with them a little deeper. But I'll open the floor now for 1, 2, or 3 questions. Any questions that you'd like to ask the panel here regarding CS Week or regarding the issue of sustainability, the issue of budgets, the issue of internal customer involvement? We have Angela and Gadoni who will be moving around with the mics. Any questions at all? Ama hizi ni sura za njaa. Yani, I know at 12:24 there was a very active conversation going on, I shall not name names, about whether there'll be food. So, do we have a question? from the floor before. Yes, right, Gathoni in the extreme corner, thank you. My friends who are making noise about food, we shall meet at the food station. You know yourselves. I've been smiling very keenly at the two of you, you know yourselves. Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Juma Oro from Communications Authority of Kenya. Now, my question to the panelists is, one, there is a myth that we do have in most organizations. And the myth is customer service belongs to consumer department or belongs to customer department or belong to those who deal with service delivery. I don't know how other organizations deal with this because it apparently every person has a customer in an organization, whether you are doing what kind of job. So how do you crack that myth? Because in most cases, the customer department are left to deal with customers. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Who would like, Joe, would you like to take that question? So we are going to keep our responses very brief. As I said, I value my life and the life of the panelists. The looks that, I shall not name names, people are looking like they're a bit weak from the smell of the food. So Joe, if you could keep this brief and just tell us, in response to the question, taking that conversation and creating ownership beyond the department towards ownership by the whole organization.
Thank you. So I'll be very brief. Some simple things that you can do, like what we do at Twiga Foods is every person coming for induction, when you are newly employed, you must get customer experience induction. You must get a session with customer experience, and we are now moving it even a notch higher, borrowing from what we used to do in Safaricom, to make sure that you work with customer serving people, so that you appreciate where the customer is coming from, and you appreciate where we require you to incorporate and also impact customer service. Because the reality is, customer experience is impacted by everybody, whether they are in the back office, developing an app, or everything. But if we don't let them know how they impact the customer experience, then there is a challenge. So what we are driving is that everyone, apart from being salespeople, everyone in the organization must be a CEO, customer experience owner. And when you own customer experience at your space, then the conversation becomes easy. So practical things like just exposing them. Now what we do is when you take someone even to the contact center, for example, as a representation of customer experience, they live there changed in their outlook of who the customer is and what it takes to retain that customer through experience and service. Let me leave it there for now. Just involve them from the word go when they join. And I think I'm privileged in Twiga, we have 4 values. And our value number 1 as a company is customer first. And everyone must subscribe to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. So we have it now. It's a very simple thing, the onboarding process of new joiners in an organization. Make the HR director or the head of HR or the head of human capital or the head of people and culture your biggest collaborator. Get heard, get a sponsor within the organization, somebody sitting in executive management, who can then help you to make sure that the onboarding of new employees essentially involves a journey through the customer experience teams. Any other questions before we go and dig into the food? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Martha Kagure from AR Insurance. My question goes to the panelists about the people who are not in the customer service department. Since customer service is not a department, do we have to give away gifts for us to appreciate the customer? Or is there a better way that we can say we are appreciating our customers or include our customers in whatever we do to better serve them?
Right, so I'll throw that to you, Lucille. Do we have to give away freebies, or are there better ways to appreciate our customers? And are you talking about internal or external customers as well? Both. So do we have to part with gifts, products, freebies as a way of appreciating our customers during CS Week, or are there other ways?
You know, it's a very, very good question, and I can't remember who said those customer service people this week. I think, was it you? Can you imagine taking a gift or KRA bringing you a gift when you've been struggling to get your penalty waived? I think it's with reason, because CX sometimes we get it wrong, right? We've got this outbound dialer, we've got our retention program, we load the numbers, and we've not checked. There's a customer who's livid. But back to your question, I think it goes to creativity, because gifts will require money. But imagine if during a customer service week, and we also have a customer obsession month running in the organization, we go into hyperdrive of getting it right first time, every time, and delighting. You know, people don't need to receive a gift, they'll know there's something going on. And then we go into, again, hyperdrive of the touch points NPS. And then just thanking, you know, the etiquette that is very natural for us. Also, visibility. We get the areas, somebody asked about the non-frontline staff. Just being visible, just picking a call to speak to somebody. And you can do this across the entire organization. And I'm sure if you brainstorm with other parties in the organization, you can come up with incredible ideas. So no, it's not always gifts. One of the first things I did away with was this end-of-year calendar and diary giving. Completely did it away in my previous slide, because there are many things you can do, and I can see James Murray somewhere there. In Airtel, at some point, what we started doing, because we were in Parkside Towers, next to Talent Carpets, give customers something they can use for life. You know, they'll remember you. So even the gifts, is it tea? Is it a T-shirt? How many T-shirts are they getting that week? So maybe our challenge to us, and thanks for that, is in the coming year, what can we do differently? Exceptionally differently. Yeah.
Angela, let me say something. This week, on Thursday, our CEO YG actually just asked the organization to go out and meet and thank the customer, period. Just go and meet them and thank them. And he led the way. I wish you saw the pictures, you'll see them. He led the way to just go and thank the customers from the heart.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amazing. So we don't limit our love and our demonstration of care to the first full week of October. And we will run our businesses broke if we are to keep giving the freebies. But if we addressed a pain point that over and over and over again is the cause of spiking calls coming in through the contact center, then we are making a lasting and sustainable change. Our last question, Angie. Yeah.
Angela? Hi.
Yes.
Sorry, here. Before you lock me out, KRA, I have been mentioned, so I have to speak. I also don't subscribe to the notion that gifts have to be given all the time. But remember, I said that we try to fix a challenge that we have. So I'll give you an example. I think probably 2 years back, we realized that how many of you have applied for your refund with KRA? Okay, please don't raise your hands because I'm not taking that. But the head of customer experience is here. She might take that feedback. We actually went on an overdrive to go look for any person who has applied for their refund and ensured that the refund was processed and paid. So that's practical, okay? And then pushing the envelope a little further, I think we did, Lucille. And I think from the government's perspective, in trying to make the life of a customer a little less painful, I think you all benefited from the COVID measures that we put in place in terms of the relief of your taxation. It was for a season, but I believe that we all benefited from it, yeah? Not during the week, but something that we are demonstrating, a listening ear to what's going on the ground. We've also looked at our processes, and I think one of the credits to the CX team is previously, if you'd apply for your tax compliance certificate, I tell you the wait was hellish. And I believe some of my colleagues here can attest to the fact that some would have to wait 2 years or even forget about the tax compliance certificate. But now if you're compliant, it's automated. And I think those are just some of the steps that the authority is taking in terms of implementing feedback and responding to pain from customers. So I have no diaries. We don't print those. We don't have that kind of money. We have no calendars to give. Might give you a few goodies during the month, once in a while. But even that is by applying ourselves, by coming to see you, not for a compliance check, but just coming to say hello. So we'll be visiting some of you. I'm sure my colleague, Beatrice, will be knocking some of your doors.
I've seen a few people shaking at the mention of being visited. So we'll take that agenda, aside from here. Now, I'm really acutely aware we need to eat. Food, glorious food. What would we do without it? And so this really is our last question. We want to make sure that our customers, who are all of you, get a chance to eat and not eat in a hurry and are able to get back home on time. Our final question.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Violet Mudhoni, CIC Group. I have a question, and this goes to the internal customer. This is the employee. We had a good customer service week. We really had a good energy for the staff. Where do we go from there? Because it was exciting. How can we sustain and what can we do? Yeah, my question.
Thank you, Violet. And I can attest to the many activities you had at CIC. Well done. How do we keep the momentum? How do we keep the psych? How do we keep the internal customer engaged? Lorna, do you want to wrap that up for us in 2 minutes?
Yeah, I think I had sort of alluded to that. It's really having more of those engagements, speaking into these issues that especially came up during this customer service week. Are there issues that you can address as divisions and start engaging people? Have roadshows, engage them more, bring them on board, show them what you do. I think there's a program like Joe was trying to allude to on In Your Shoes. Show them what you do, so that even when you go and also understand what these other people do, it's a partnership. Understand what they do, understand what we do, and let us just have this as a partnership. It's more of let's work together. It's a lot of stakeholder engagement. I think it doesn't work in a week. It's a journey. It might take 1 year, it might take 2 years, depending with the organization, but it's a lot of engagement, not giving up, and just keeping pushing and pushing for the customer. Don't give up for the customer. Be the chief irritant for the customer. Yes.
Thank you, Lorna. Violet, I hope that does answer your question. So partnership, engagement, stakeholder engagement, collaboration. This is how we are going to take our agendas forward. And please, ladies and gentlemen, as I give back the stage to Eric, please let's give a rousing applause to our team of experts who will be available to engage with you during dinner. Over to you, Eric.